Welcome to Culture Screen, where we analyze culture. In this episode, we are summarizing the 9th episode from Season 1 of Ozark titled Coffee Black. In the beginning, we see Tuck at a hunting and fishing superstore. He approaches the gun counter and offers the employee a letter describing the type of pistol he wants. Tuck then meets up with Jonah after acquiring the gun and gives it to him. After the massive fight they had the night before, things between Marty and Wendy appear awkward over morning coffee. Wendy inquires as to whether or not Marty requires her to accompany him to church. Marty says no and that he'll take care of Nix on his own. Marty informs Wendy that sleeping on the couch is not required, but Wendy disagrees. We see Marty goes away after he and Wendy stare at one another in silence. When Marty and the kids get in the car to drive to school, Jonah wonders if the man sitting near their driveway observing them is a threat to their safety. Marty tells Jonah that he is not and advises Jonah to give the man a wave. Marty goes to Sheriff Nix to talk about the church fire. He points out that there are burn patterns and that an accelerant was utilized. Nix ends up asking Marty if he knows anyone who would want to burn down the construction site. Marty claims that he does not. Marty wants to clean up the scene, but Nix says he can't since it's now an active crime scene, and that he'll have to wait for the investigation to conclude. Marty shows up at the farmer's market to confront the Snells about the church fire. Marty, of course, believes the Snells destroyed the church. Marty is shocked when Jacob reveals that it was Pastor Mason who set the church ablaze. Jacob tells Marty that it was he who convinced Mason to return to preaching on the water. Jacob manages to convince Pastor Mason to stay on the water by telling Mason about Marty's illegal activity. We see Agent Roy Petty and Russ Langmore are back at the motel, and while Russ is relaxing on the bed, he begins to discuss other parts of the country with cleaner and more beautiful lakes and rivers. Roy interrupts him and tells him to stop talking because he needs to hear something from him. Roy plays him a tape of Russ stating that he won't try to kill Marty Byrde again. Roy confesses he is an FBI agent when Russ wonders why he has that tape. As additional evidence, he shows Russ his FBI badge. This revelation has clearly disturbed Russ at this point, but Roy is not done yet. Roy explains to Russ that he is being charged with a Class B felony and faces a maximum sentence of 15 years in prison. Russ says he has no knowledge about Marty Byrde, but Ruth does. Russ becomes outraged and tries to fight Roy as everything begins to sink in. Roy tosses papers and a pen near Russ while he is still on the ground, urging him to sign the document. This signature gives Agent Petty the authority to bug Russ's trailer. As we follow up with Sam, Wendy learns about Sam's mother's death. Sam blames himself, claiming that he and his mother had a quarrel and that he dismissed her as a result of it. Wendy tells him he should not blame himself and advises him to return home. She offers to take care of his mother's funeral costs for him. He declines the offer, but informs him that he will require some of his mother's funds for the funeral. Wendy promises to speak with Marty about the funds for the funeral that same night. Meanwhile, Marty is at the Blue Cat pleading with Rachel to let him back in for at least a week. Marty promises her that his actions will never get her in trouble. He even records a threatening voicemail on her phone as evidence that she could use against Marty in the future if he were to ever get caught. Marty admits to Rachel that if he misses his deadline, his entire family will be killed. Rachel grudgingly agrees that he can stay and work at the Blue Cat. Later on, we see Russ asks Ruth if they can bury the hatchet ever since he hit her and offers her a beer back at his trailer. Ruth agrees. Russ starts off by thanking Ruth for not informing her father that he struck her. He then asks Ruth if she is looking into assassinating Marty. Ruth, however, immediately notices Russ is acting strange and refuses to respond to any of his questions. Russ, of course, tries to rephrase the questioning. Ruth responds by telling him that she has to do laundry and walks out. When Russ gets back to the motel, Agent Evans introduces himself and informs Russ that he is his FBI handler. Russ does not understand that the conversation he had with Ruth is worthless because Ruth did not confess to any crimes. As a result of this, Agent Evans orders him to return and question Ruth once again. Remember, I am summarizing the entire series. Let me know what your favorite TV show and movie is so I can summarize it in the future. Consider subscribing if you enjoy this summary. Doing these two things helps my channel out tremendously. I truly appreciate your support. Later on, we see Sam returns to the lodge, this time inquiring about his mother's money again. Marty warns him that taking the money out too soon would result in penalties. Sam is not concerned about the penalties and he demands his money be returned. Marty thinks quickly and suggests that he and Wendy could cover the funeral expenses, explaining that they do not want him to lose money due to fines. Sam accepts the offer immediately. Wendy joins Sam at the funeral home, where she quickly sees the funeral owner is attempting to defraud them by adding more and more items to the total funeral cost. Wendy requests that Sam excuse them so that she can speak with Harry about the prices. She informs Harry that the cost for a few of the things does not appear to be accurate, and Harry does not disagree. Wendy presses forward and inquires about the total, which is $49,950 before tax for the entire funeral. Wendy then asks Harry if he has a business partner and learns that he does not. We see Wendy is proving to be just as much a smooth talker as Marty. When Wendy returns home, she finds the cartel associate who was parked outside their driveway has vanished from the street. Marty confesses that he has transferred the remaining $8 million to Dell. When Marty asks Wendy about Sam and the funeral costs, Wendy replies by telling Marty that they now own a funeral home business. Marty does not look surprised at all after they both chuckle and are happy to have yet another business to launder money through. Back at the Langmore residence, Russ urges the rest of the family to go grab some dinner. And as Ruth is putting on her coat, he tries speaking to her about Marty yet again, this time asking about what Bird's strategy is when laundering money. Ruth asks Russ why he is acting strange all of a sudden. Russ tries to convince Ruth that he has been thinking about utilizing the money to help pay for Wyatt's college education. Ruth ends up telling Russ that if he wants the money so badly from Marty, why doesn't he take it himself? As soon as Ruth figures out that Russ is recording her, she says killing Marty was always Russ's idea in the first place. Agent Petty calls Russ after Ruth leaves to warn him that Ruth is on to him. Agent Evans, on the other hand, gives him another chance to speak with Ruth. As Rush dashes out of the trailer, he tells Boyd that he is going to kill Marty and take his money before fleeing town. Russ outlines how he intends to kidnap Marty, steal the money, and eventually murder him. Boyd chooses to accompany him. Garcia, one of Dell's guys, arrives at the Blue Cat to bring money to Marty, while Rachel goes away to contact Marty. Jonah asks Tuck for a favor after turning around. We also see Jonah practicing his shooting in the woods with his new automatic rifle. It appears to be too strong for him, yet he continues to practice. Jonah then buries the gun after completing his shooting. Buddy sees everything, gets the gun, and takes out the bullets from the magazine. After that, he returns it to Jonah's original hiding place. When Marty and Wendy examine the boxes that were delivered, they find $50 million in cash money. Marty says that they'll need to wrap it before putting it inside of the Blue Cat's walls. Wendy reminds him that it will take days, and Marty agrees that they will require assistance. Marty notices Ruth drive by as he walks to the Blue Cat kitchen to see if Rachel has any food. Ruth continues to drive despite making eye contact with Marty. Moments later, we see Boyd and Russ taking a boat ride to the Blue Cat to murder and rob Marty. As they reach the dock, Russ is electrocuted when he attempts to exit the boat by holding on to the handrails connected to the dock. As soon as Boyd tries to help Russ, he touches him and electrical currents pass through Russ and into Boyd, also killing them both instantly. When the lights go out, Marty and Garcia discover Russ and Boyd are dead. Later on, we see Ruth ask Marty if it worked. Instead of thanking Ruth, Marty points out that the men in the picture are her uncles. Ruth responds by telling Marty that he could not let her uncles kill him. As Marty holds Ruth, she begins to cry. When Agent Petty gets the news, he is in a bar on his phone when a local man claims he cannot hear the game because Agent Petty is talking too loudly on the phone. Before leaving the bar, Petty throws a beer bottle at the local and shoots a hole into the TV screen. That was episode 9, titled Coffee Black. To watch the next or previous episode summary, click on the link in the description or at the end of this video. If you enjoyed this summary, consider clicking like and subscribe. It truly helps me grow this channel. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
You tried once, it didn't work, you're gonna try again.
We upload new videos every week, so subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Click the notification bell to be notified of when we upload these videos. See you on the next episode of Culture Screen.